Hello, and welcome to another week of Light to My Path, our 2025 Bible reading plan. This week, we are reading 5 more chapters from the Gospel of Mark, Mark 11 through 15. Mark 16, which is the super short ending of Mark, is the resurrection. That's next week, but really this is, besides that, this is the wrap-up of the Gospel of Mark. I hope you've enjoyed reading the Gospel of Mark with us. I hope you've enjoyed investigating, looking at, reading who Jesus is, what he said, what he did. That's really, again, that's what the Gospel of Mark is all about. Getting us to answer that question, who do you say that I am? And then because of that, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to follow him or not? Are you going to acknowledge him as Lord or not? The last few chapters here that we'll read this week, 11 through 15, they really, Mark has a way of focusing in on the corrupt leadership of the Jewish temple and system and leadership, basically. You see that in chapter 11, when he gets into Jerusalem, looks around, strangely doesn't do anything, but then the next day comes back from Bethany, and he has this fig tree interaction where he curses the fig tree, and then he goes into Jerusalem, he cleanses the temple, because it's supposed to be a house of prayer for the nations, but you've made it a den of robbers. And then he comes out and the fig tree is withered. And this is Mark's way, like the fig tree, this is kind of like a parable for what's happening here. Jesus is coming into Jerusalem, and he's seeing that the system, the temple system, the way the sacrifices work, the priests, the way that they are kind of making it about them and closing off God to the nations. Jesus is coming in and condemning it, just like he condemned the fig tree. Not because like the Jewish religion is wrong or bad or anything like that. Jesus himself was Jewish, but because at this point it had missed the point. And as we read in chapter 12, he tells this parable of the wicked tenants. The people in Jerusalem, the leadership, they had rejected the Son. They had rejected Jesus. They missed that God was there in person to save them, to clean it up, to kind of make it, to turn it into what it's supposed to be. This theme of kind of judgment on the Jerusalem leadership hierarchy system, it gets kind of put to a fever pitch in chapter 13 when he talks about the destruction of the temple. And this is kind of like, where it's like, okay, they've had enough of Jesus. But this is really what it's coming down to, is the temple is supposed to be the place where the nations could go to meet God. And the temple had not become, it was not that place any longer. And God had abandoned that temple. And so God's presence was no longer there. Instead, God's presence was located in Jesus. And then after he died and rose from the dead and gave his spirit, God's presence would be located in the community of Jesus' people, i.e. the church. And so that's kind of the focus of what Mark is doing in the last few chapters of his gospel. And there's kind of a reworking of Passover, which is like the primary foundation story of the Jewish people. When they were rescued from slavery in Egypt, Jesus then makes that about him, because in and through him is the real Exodus. It's the real liberation from slavery. But then in chapter 15, and I mentioned this on Sunday, I think, that it's in that chapter where it is clear that Jesus is the King of the Jews, who the Jews have rejected. And that's kind of, where the themes of who Jesus is kind of get wrapped up. And it's interesting, in the end of it, you see the confession of the centurion, so the non-Jewish person, the Roman centurion, when he saw the way that Jesus died, the way that he breathed his last breath, he said, "Truly, this man was God's son. And he's the human that finally sees, when he sees how Jesus died, he was truly God's son. And that's that's like a way of being the final answer that we are meant to see. Like, we're meant to read this whole story and see what Jesus does and see what he says, and we're meant to come away saying, like Peter, you are the Messiah. Like the centurion, you are the Son of God. And that's meant to change everything about us, about how we live, as we'll see through the current series, how we live our lives in allegiance to Jesus as Lord, as King, as the Son of God. So, all right, have a great week of reading. If you have any questions, I'd love for you to come and talk to me. Take care.